Okay, welcome back to our third lesson online, and it's just a few days away from our exams, so let's try our best to finish up this paper 2. Okay, we have discussed this in class thanks to Ashlyn. So these are some of the steps that we were talking about. Some of you have actually come up to me to ask about conversion and not very sure about how conversion is being done. So I'm just going to do a little quick recap over here regarding the conversions. Okay, now if you take a look at the number that is below, this number actually represents the total parts. If you remember in primary 2 fractions, okay, the denominator always represents the total parts. So in this case, we talk about hours, we want to change it into minutes, or minutes, we want to change it to hours. We know that in an hour, there's a total of 60 minutes. So this number at the bottom is actually the total minutes that you have in 1 hour. And you are only interested in 30 minutes. So by putting a number on top, 30 out of 60 total, and you express it into the simplest form, this actually gives you the time in hours. You will find that this trick works very well for every type of conversion, including centimeters, liters, and so on. For example, you have a 450 milliliters, and if I want to change this to a liter, okay, if you use the same idea, 450 is what you're interested in, and you know in every liter there's 1000 milliliter. Okay, so if you go by this way and you do your simplifying, cancel a pair of 0, dividing them by 5 maybe, okay, you will get a very nice fraction in liters. Now if you want to do it further, you can even do a 9 divided by 20, and you will end up with a very nice decimal, and this decimal will give you the answer in a decimal form as well. Okay, so we talk about question 2. Now I just want to emphasize about question 2 as a form of an exam revision as well. Now you notice there are 2 people in a question. Okay, so what Ashlyn did over at the worksheet is actually she represented S for Sean. Okay, now what she could have done also, she could have also represented this whole statement by writing R, because this whole entire thing was about Rachel. So this English, you notice, okay, I have an English word here. Now this English really will help you in your exams to tell you, oh, this fraction represents S, and this fraction here represents Rachel, and when I add the both of them up, I get a very nice answer. Remember just to use a calculator. In fact, you don't even need to convert. Just press on your calculator 1312 plus 1 whole 5 out of 12, you get a very nice 2.5 hours. Okay, let's go to question 3. So if you remember the painful experience of our area of triangle test, please put in your base, please put in your height properly before you go on to your base times height. And those who are not used to doing half base times height, if you still prefer doing 26 times 9, and then the answer divide by 2, please remember to divide by 2. Many of you stopped here without dividing by 2. So my suggestion is follow the Greek. If they say half, jolly well use half since you have a calculator here. Okay. Question 4, didn't quite like the presentation over here. Let me just put a nice thing over here. So 1 unit, in fact, we are talking about 16 divided by 2. We are interested in comics, and we know comics is 4 units. So 4 units gives you a 8 times 4, which is your final answer, 32. Alright. Now, question 5. Question 5 can be a ratio question as well, because you know that ratio are made up of parts. So you have a 1 part here, and you have a total of 3 parts. So this is 1:3, for example. So let's avoid doing it this way with the units method. Let's do it properly, you know that 3 units is 32. 1 unit gives you 72 divided by 3 equals to 24. Okay, and yada yada, we go on. Okay, now question 6, which we didn't have time to go through. So we're going to start question 6 proper now. So let's turn over to question 6. And the question says this. This girl called Sally, and she is very ambitious. She wants to finish reading her book in 18 days. And to do that, to finish reading this book in 18 days, she has to read 35 pages a day. Now, if you remember with Shorten the Grandma story, we always want to just look at a part of the story. We don't want to look at the entire thing and scare the hell out of us. So we just look at this sentence here. Sally wanted to finish in 18 days. She planned to read 35 pages a day if she wants to finish in 18 days. So over here, let's ask ourselves, are we able to find out the total number of pages that this storybook has? If you're going to read 35 pages a day and you have 18 days to read, this gives you the total number of pages that you are going to end up reading in order to finish the whole storybook. This gives you an M1. Okay, so as you mark, you may want to ask yourself, how many marks have I gotten? The goal may not be to get full marks for every question. It's not easy. But the goal in your exam, always ask yourself, how can I earn an M1? Even though I may not be able to solve the question fully. Where should I earn? What should I write to get an M1? Okay, now let's continue reading the story. They said that in the end, she took 3 days longer. That's quite upset. You wanted to read in 18 days, but you ended up 3 days longer. So instead of using 18 days, Sally actually took 21 days to read the 630 pages. So the question is, how many pages did she read in 1 day? Now, if you know that 21 days is the days that you take to read 630 pages, the question is asking, what about 1 day? Okay, this part over here looks very much like our units method. So 21 units is 630. So you're interested in 1 unit. So 630 divide by 21. Remember again, use your calculator. You get a very nice number. Okay. Now, if you remember what we talked about in class, we said this. Does your answer make sense? The moment you do a 630 divided by 21, and you get a very nice number without any decimal, without any remainder on your calculator, you know you are on the right track. Okay, so by dividing it with 21, you get an M1. For getting the answer correct by pressing the calculator properly, some of you can't press the calculator properly, you get a 30. That's the answer. Okay, last question for this video before we go on to the second video. 8 students or 8 pupils took part in the table tennis competition. 2 players competed against one another. So always remember, models is not a must. Instead of drawing models, sometimes I may prefer drawing cartoons instead. So 2 players compete with one another. 2 players compete with one another. Okay, 2 players compete with one another. 2 players compete with one another. And you know there are a total of 8 pupils competing. Okay. Now the winner of each match would move on to the next round. So the first match, we have 8 people, 2 versus one another, 1 versus one another. Okay. Now on the first match, there will be a winner. So we don't know who is that winner. On the first match, this team will also have 1 winner. On the first match, this team will also have only 1 winner. And on the first match, there will be another winner here. So every match, okay, will result in a winner from each team. This is the second match that's going to happen next. Now, at the second match, you will find that this guy is going to compete with this guy. This guy is going to compete with this guy. Okay? So, now, when you compete already, you will find out who is the winner, whether is it this guy or this guy. And the second team, this guy or this guy, one of them will win. Now, you are left with 2. This is going on to the third match. At the third match, this guy and this guy will play to see who becomes the champion. So you notice the question is asking how many matches would it require to determine the champion. This is the champion. You would need 1 match, 2 match, as well as 3 matched. Okay, so the answer, 3 matched. Do not be worried about you drawing pictures, because if the pictures make sense, you get your method mark, you get your answer mark correct as well. Okay, so of course, if you have an answer without a drawing or somehow any kinds of drawing to show me how you got the answer, then this is considered a fluke. Alright, now you may want to pause the video to think about what has just happened in the first video before we move on to the second video. I'll see you in the second video.